All right, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks so much for your patience. Thanks for joining us. My name is Sarah King, and I have Tina Day, Madison Viola, Sarah Makis, and Tim Watkins joining me behind the scenes. We are with the San Bernardino County Transportation Authority Public Outreach Team, and you are joining our December webinar for the I-10 Express Lanes project. We also have a special guest, Officer Stephen Rawls, joining us from the California Highway Patrol, who will be joining us a little bit later on in our presentation. A couple of housekeeping items before we get started with the presentation. Our webinar will be recorded and posted on our website at gosbcta.com/I-10 corridor for those who couldn't join us live today. And as part of the webinar feature, your microphone is automatically muted and your cameras are automatically disabled. We will be using the Q&A function to answer your questions, and our team will provide written responses in real time. And at the conclusion of the presentation, we will highlight and respond to key themes and topics from those questions. We will be launching a few polls throughout the presentation, and they're really just an interactive way to help us learn a little bit more about you and gauge your awareness levels on some of the topics that we'll be discussing. And finally, this is an informational meeting to educate you about this project. We believe all positions, positive or negative, related to SBCTA activities should have a voice in the process. However, we expect that this will be done in a respectful manner. SBCTA reserves the right to monitor, filter, and remove content or participants that our team deems inappropriate. Now, for those of you who may not be familiar with Zoom's platform, the Q&A box can be found at the bottom of your screen. Simply click on where it says Q&A and a pop-up will appear on your screen where you can type in your question. Again, we will respond to questions using this feature and address overall topics and themes at the end of our presentation. You may still see the chat feature button at the bottom of the screen. However, chats will only be directed to panelists and utilized to receive more information for questions that require further research. If you are joining us from a landline and using the call-in option, please email your questions to info@gosbcta.com. So let's get started. The SB Express lanes in San Bernardino County will provide approximately 10 miles of express lanes along I-10 in each direction from the Los Angeles County, San Bernardino County line to the I-15 interchange. That's the green highlighted portion here on the map. And here's where we're actually going to launch our first poll question. Madison, if you can launch that for us. For those of you joining us on the webinar, we'd like to know how frequently you drive on the I-10 corridor. Now, the project includes 2 tolled express lanes in each direction in the median of the freeway, and anyone can choose to use them for a fee once they open in 2023. Construction broke ground in spring 2020, and the project will keep the current configuration with no changes to the 4 general purpose lanes or the auxiliary lane to assist drivers with merging on and off the freeway between ramps. But again, we are adding 2 tolled express lanes in each direction and a shoulder where the 1 HOV lane was prior to construction. Construction is anticipated to be complete in 2023. Madison, can we take a look at our poll results before moving on? All right, so it looks like the majority of folks are driving on the I-10 at least 1 to 3 times per week. We have a handful of people driving daily, some weekends only, and even those who don't drive on the I-10 at all. So we've been hosting these webinars since the start of 2021. Actually, I think even some in 2020. But nevertheless, they're here to provide information to you about this project, whether you drive it daily, monthly, or even just once a year, just traveling up maybe to the mountain. So thank you for being here, and hopefully you learned some new information. The express lanes are not new to Southern California. However, the I-10 express lanes will be the first express lanes in San Bernardino County. There are express lanes in our neighboring counties, such as the 91 in Orange and Riverside counties, the I-15 express lanes that recently opened in Riverside, the 10 and 110 LA Metro express lanes up in Los Angeles. And we also have the toll roads of Orange County and a few other express lanes further south in San Diego County. So here's actually where we'll be launching our next poll question. And we'd like to know, for those of you joining us, if you have a Fast Track account. Fast Track is used to collect tolls on every tolled bridge, lane, and road in the state of California. And a pre-established Fast Track account will be required to pay for tolls and receive the lowest toll price on the SB Express lanes. Using express lanes offer choices to drivers, relieve congestion, and provide triple liability throughout the corridor. They benefit all drivers because those who choose to pay to use the express lanes free up space in the GP lanes. Madison, can we take a look at our poll results? All right, 63% of people joining us on our webinar today do have a Fast Track account. and the rest don't have an account. So for those of you who selected you do have an account, you are all set to go when the SB Express lanes open, since Fast Track is interoperable throughout the state of California. And for those of you who do not have an account, you've got plenty of time to do so. Again, since the lanes won't be open and operational until 2023. And if you think you might only use the express lanes once in a blue moon, if you have a meeting or an appointment, or maybe visiting family over the holidays, we do have an option for you to where you do not have to sign up for a Fast Track account. And that's where you can drive in the express lanes and go to the website and pay for your tolls online within 5 days after driving in the lanes using what we call the pay online feature. This is a unique feature to the SB Express lanes on the I-10, and it's not available on any other express lanes in Southern California. So we're really excited not only to bring this new option of the lanes to the county and to the region, but also to have a variety of payment options for our drivers as well. Now, since our last webinar in June, the I-10 Express Lanes project has made significant progress constructing the first express lanes in the county. The I-10 Express Lanes project broke ground in spring of 2020. And since then, construction has been occurring during daytime and nighttime hours and involves work in the lanes, on the on and off ramps, along the shoulder to the freeway, and even local streets and roads. As you all may know, construction is a dynamic process with many variables that impact the delivery of a project, especially as large as this one. These can include weather delays, like the downpour that we all received yesterday, the equipment impacts, scheduling conflicts, environmental delays, and over the last 2 years, what we've all experienced, which is a global pandemic. So we do appreciate your patience throughout construction and any unforeseen schedule delays. And even though this project has encountered a few delays, we've made a lot of progress, and we'd love to share that with you over the next few slides. Now, because we're widening the footprint of the freeway, our crews are taking down and rebuilding all of the retaining walls and the sound walls that are between the neighborhoods and the freeway. Crews are continuing this work at several locations near the eastbound and westbound lanes of I-10. This work may be loud and vibration may even occur, and the equipment that's used for the retaining walls and sound wall activity includes excavators, backhoes, loaders, dump trucks, and concrete mixing trucks. You may have seen K-rail placed on the freeway shoulders so that crews can work between the K-rail and wall locations. And once walls are demolished, materials are removed so crews can prepare the land for the replacement wall. About 35% of retaining and sound wall activity, which includes both demolition and new construction, is now complete on the project. That's a significant milestone for us. And a fun fact, especially regarding this photo on the left, all the material that is demolished within the project is also hauled off to be recycled and reused and put back within the project. So that not only includes the demolition of our walls, but also our bridges as well. There are 18 bridges throughout the corridor that are either being replaced, widened, or improved to accommodate the widening of the freeway to add the express lanes. And 50% of the bridge work on the project has been completed. The 2 bridges that you see here have undergone significant progress since we last met in June. One that is not shown on the slide is Sultana Avenue, which actually opened in August. And that was a really exciting milestone for the project because Sultana Avenue was the first bridge that was closed in 2020 for a full demolition and rebuilt in a single stage. The left photo that you see here is of the Campus Avenue utility bridge. Prior to demolition, crews built a utility bridge to maintain the utility service over the freeway. And the bridge was demolished in mid-October of this year, and construction will last approximately 9 months. Crews are currently installing steel plates into the ground, which is what we call shoring. Now, the photo that you see here on the right is the demolition of the 6th Street Bridge. 6th Street over I-10 was also demolished in early October, and both of these bridges will be rebuilt into a wider configuration, or really a longer length of the bridge to span the new widened freeway below. Construction on both of these bridges will take approximately 9 months. Now, the bridges that we're going to discuss here are actually portions of the freeway over the local streets. And as portions of the bridges are complete, they are open for use. So not shown here is the I-10 over Monte Vista Avenue. And in November, the newly built shoulder and right lane on the eastbound I-10 was completed, but we'll discuss a milestone on that a little bit later in the webinar. And then over here, work continues on the widening of the I-10 over 4th Street. That's the photo shown here on the left. These are steel beams or girders that were installed in the fall. And this is a key portion of creating the deck, which is the portion of the bridge that vehicles will drive on. This area is anticipated to open in early spring, and it's to accommodate the wider footprint of the bridge. Underground utilities are also currently being relocated. The photo that you see here on the right is of Euclid Avenue, which is over the I-10 freeway. Crews demolished the east side of the bridge and are working on rebuilding the northbound lanes. This photo is a close-up of the Euclid Avenue deck, and this portion is anticipated to be complete in early spring of 2022. This will allow crews to shift traffic and demolish the west side of the bridge. So now here we're going to talk a little bit about our ramps. There are about 40 on and off ramps throughout the project corridor. And since we're widening the footprint of the freeway, many of these ramps need to be realigned with the new freeway width. So to do this, crews close specific ramps for a period of 10 days or a little bit longer. And that's to be able to place K-rail, set up traffic control, remove, realign, and repave the ramps. A portion of the closure time also includes cure times for the concrete to harden or dry before allowing vehicles to be able to travel over the surface. Currently, right now, we've got the westbound Holt Boulevard off-ramp, which is closed for this specific type of work, and we anticipate opening that sometime this month. Another fun fact you see on this right photo, K-rail that's placed along the edge of the ramp. 106 miles of K-rail has been placed in multiple stages of work over the course of this entire project. So during these multi-day closures, crews are placing K-rail, which is what I had mentioned, to be able to protect the work area. And so you can imagine the amount of K-rail that's been placed, not only for this type of ramp activity, but also for our bridge activity, our sound wall and retaining wall activity. And that's a lot of K-rail in order to be able to span over 100 miles. So just a little fun fact for you. And our next set of 10-day ramp closures will begin in January. And so for those who share that they do drive pretty regularly on the I-10 corridor, we hope that you are signing up for our construction alerts so that you can plan ahead and be in the know in case your ramp is impacted. Now, weekend closures, also known as 55-hour lane closures, typically take place between a Friday night and a Monday morning, and they're planned throughout the duration of the project. Now, while not necessarily a full shutdown of the freeway, the 55-hour closures are lane closures, meaning a portion of the freeway remains open to traffic, but nonetheless, they still impact our weekend commute. But they do allow for our crews to work on a portion of the freeway for an extended period of time. Our most recent weekend closure took place in November, and the 3 right lanes of eastbound I-10 were closed from Milliken Avenue to the northbound I-15 connector. Since our last webinar in June, the I-10 Express Lanes construction team has completed 12 55-hour lane closures, and we anticipate a handful more over the next 2 years of construction. So please be on the lookout in our construction alerts for that. Now we get to dive into our main topic, which is safety in construction zones. I'd love to bring special guest officer Stephen Rawls with the California Highway Patrol to our webinar. You can turn on your camera and unmute yourself.
Hello.
Hi, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself before we dive into our slides?
Sure. I'm Officer Stephen Rawls. I've been with the California Highway Patrol for about 9 years now, and I'm currently the Public Information Officer for the Rancho Cucamonga area, which pretty much deals a lot with public interaction and media relations.
Sounds good. Well, we're so glad to have you here. I know this safety is of utmost importance, not only to SBCTA, but especially as we go through the construction area. I'm going to move on to our next slide, but if you don't mind, throughout all of the slides that we have, just really stress and emphasize the partnership that CHP has with Caltrans and SBCTA, and really even the local cities around the area, if you could just keep that in mind.
Absolutely.
All right, so here we have a slide for daylight savings time. We all know we experienced it back in early November. We turned our clocks back 1 hour, losing an hour of daylight. And so for many of us, this means that our evening commute between 5 and 7 p.m. is mostly in the dark. So it's just a good reminder to please be mindful of posted signage, always be alert when driving on the freeway, especially in the new darker evening hours. Now, Officer Rawls, as you know, the I-10 travels east-west, the same direction as our sun, which means there are times in the morning and the late afternoon where the sun reflects on the lanes and striping. So I know that there are specifically a couple of areas within the project that include solid white stripes that also have additional reflectors along the stripes. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, what that might mean? Are you even allowed to cross change lanes when there is a solid white stripe? What does any of that mean?
Sure, I know a lot of it can be kind of confusing at times. There's different patterns in the lanes and whatnot, but as far as the solid white stripe goes, it has a couple purposes. One is to improve visibility in the lanes, as opposed to just the broken white lines. And although it is legal to cross them, it is discouraged to do so, as they're commonly placed where a shift in the lane pattern is taking place. So if at all possible during those times, you want to just try to stay in your lane until you get past that area where it does, the lane markings do go to a broken pattern again. As far as daylight savings time goes, a lot of us do travel during that time of day when the sun is right in our eyes or in the back of our, our field of vision. So the biggest thing you can do is just, adjust your speed accordingly. If you're not able to see clearly, slow down a little bit, make sure you're paying extra attention to the road itself. Follow the posted signs and speed limits. And obviously at all times, never drive distracted. Okay. Just pay attention to the one thing that you have to do at that very moment, and that's driving. Okay. Also, you want to make sure your windshield is clean. Okay. That can help a lot as well. If the sun's reflecting off of it, you just want to make sure you could do everything you can to see clearly and be as safe as possible.
Thank you. Those are all such great reminders. And you always hear be present in the moment, but that means an infinitely different meaning when you're driving in your car to not be distracted with anything else around you. So great reminder. Thank you. So you mentioned slow down your speed or reduce your speed,
Yes.
if applicable. And we do have in the construction area a reduced speed limit from 65 miles per hour to 55 miles per hour. But we also see a lot of orange signs, not only with the reduced speed limit, but with flashing amber lights. And so I know that's in place, of course, for the safety of the traveling public, for the people who are joining us here on the webinar, but of course, the construction crew members that are working every single day to improve our commute as well. Can you tell us a little bit about what the color orange even signifies?
Yes, the orange colored signs are typically used to alert drivers to possible changes in the road conditions. They're also to remind you to reduce your speed and watch for construction vehicles that enter and exit the freeway or from a construction site. Typically, any construction site that you go through will have a reduced speed limit of 55 miles per hour. And that's for a couple of things, changing the roadway, the lane pattern, but also like you said, Sarah, is that there's people working out on these freeways. And for us to be driving by them, it's very important that we slow down and pay attention and don't drive distracted. You don't want to find yourself with us right behind you, because those construction tickets could sometimes have a double fee along with them.
Right. So they are in fact, and is any type of ticket enforceable in the area? Would a fine be doubled because it is taking place within a construction zone? Can you elaborate on that?
Yes, it is possible. So when we, if we cite a driver in a construction zone, there is a section on the ticket to mark if it is in that area. And then it's, it's up to the courts in the end to decide whether or not they're going to impose an enhanced fine with that.
Got it. All right. Thank you. All right. Now, if you can just bear with me for a minute, I'll bring you in on the next slide, but I'd like to orient our viewers with the new temporary new lane configuration that we have here, this graphic. This is a graphic that's illustrating the crossover lane currently in place on the eastbound lanes of I-10 in the city of Montclair. As you can see on the left here, we have, so imagine you're looking at an aerial view of the eastbound lanes. We've got lanes 1 through 5, with lane number 1 being all the way in the middle of the freeway, the center median, lane number 2 and 3, 4, and 5 on the outside shoulders. So lanes 1 and 2 have been in a crossover configuration for over a year. And last month, lanes 3, 4, and 5, just trying to pull my mouse up there. Okay, 3, 4, and 5 shifted towards the outside shoulder, which is the newly constructed portion of the I-10 over Monte Vista Avenue Bridge. The crossover lanes and shifts create safe workspaces to allow the bridge to be rebuilt. And once work on the eastbound lanes are complete, crews will begin work on the westbound lanes, and lanes will be placed into a similar configuration. So as a reminder, as you can see in this graphic, drivers who are in the number 1 crossover lane would not be able to exit at Monte Vista, Central Avenue, or Mountain Avenue, because they remain committed to this lane with no exit, as it states. until you get close to Euclid Avenue. And the same goes for drivers in lane number 2, who would not be able to exit at Monte Vista or Central Avenue. So these will be in effect over the next several months, and it's necessary for crews to build new portions of the bridge. So this slide, you can see we actually have a couple photos from the crossover lane. And you can see that it's separated from the rest of the freeway by the concrete barrier. So because these lanes are protected by the barrier, this limits a driver's ingress and egress, as I just described. There is ample notification of the crossover lane with the orange signs, both at eye level, changeable message signs, those electronic boards, and then of course overhead as well. So Officer Rawls, can you explain, I guess just again, stressing the importance of safety and to remove any distracted driving when you're in a situation like this. And then of course, your partnership with our construction team members and SBCTA as we prepared for this new lane configuration.
Absolutely. We've met with SBCTA and the contractor teams at the site of the construction to review the crossover lane and the new traffic shifts. We discussed how drivers may navigate the changes, the importance of safety and signage for them, and how we at the CHP will monitor the area. We just want to remind the drivers how important it is to pay attention to the signage and not panic when entering into and driving through the crossover lanes. You know, you might get a little confused when you're separated by those K-rails, but it's just important that you stay in your lane, follow the signs, and, you know, just try not to be distracted when you're going through the area. CHP will be on patrol in this area, as well as FSP, which is the Freeway Service Patrol, to assist and monitor any motorists that become disabled within the crossover lanes. You know, it's just another reason to, you know, be on your highest alert when driving through that area, just because there are limited areas in case someone were to become disabled and within that lane. You got to be ready to react.
Right, and I think that's a really good reminder, especially as I'm looking at this photo. We don't see a very large or wide shoulder. So what is some advice for a driver if they were to happen to get a flat tire, something happens medically while they're driving? What do you recommend in that moment?
You know, as every situation is different, if you were to get a flat tire, say in that slide right there, your car still can't operate. Okay, if you just get a flat tire, it's very important to continue forward. Nope, don't panic. You know, first of all, you know, make your movements very smooth. Don't slam on your brakes. Don't swerve your vehicle because your traction is definitely compromised. But you just want to continue forward. If you can exit the freeway eventually at an exit, do so safely. If not, wait till you have an opening and pull to the right shoulder where you can be clear of lanes. The biggest push here is your safety, and to stop within the lane is probably the worst idea ever. So you just want to make sure that you're looking out for yourself and everybody else on the roadway too, and just try to get to a safe location.
Wonderful. All right, thank you. This is our last slide, and I'm really going to hand you the floor here. I see Caltrans logo, I see CHP logo. We talked about orange. We see a lot of orange flashing lights. We see the cones. We see crew members in their orange vests. I know when you and I met out in the field a while ago for one of our videos, I was wearing my vest and my hard hat. You had on your proper gear. So really, if you have any closing remarks regarding move over, it's the law, slowing for the cone zone, this is all yours.
All right. So recently there was a law put into place. It's called the move over law. Okay. And basically what that states is that anytime there is an emergency vehicle on the side of the freeway, whether it be a tow truck with its emergency lights on, an ambulance, a fire truck, one of our patrol vehicles, if they're on the side of the freeway with their lights on, it is the law to either move over a lane, or if you're unable to because of traffic, to slow down as you pass them. This is set in place to help our safety as well as the safety of everybody else on the freeway. If we're on the side of the road helping somebody who's disabled, or crews are working on the side of the road, they're out there risking their life every day, and it's kind of scary with the speed of traffic going by you. So it's very important to pay attention where you're at, what's coming up in front of you. Remember, look far ahead when you're driving. Don't just look at the car in front of you. Pay attention to what's ahead of you, what's coming up on the shoulders and whatnot, so that you can react accordingly and be as safe as possible going through these construction areas.
Great. Well, thank you again so much for your time, for joining us, for all the work that you and CHP do monitoring our freeways and making sure we're all safe. I trust that we're all practicing these safe behaviors on the road, but I know now more than ever, especially in the holiday season with the hustle and bustle of traffic, these are great reminders for us. So thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
All right, so for everyone on the webinar, we're in the home stretch, just a few more slides to go. The next few will focus on our community outreach and how you can learn more information to navigate our project. Our team and our project information can be found in a variety of ways. Our information across all of the platforms is consistent. So if there's a closure, we just want you to be prepared. If there's major activity near where you live, we want you to be informed in advance. And we offer this information in a variety of ways. We have a robust website, gosbcta.com/I-10 corridor, where you can sign up to receive our weekly construction alerts. We offer a text alert program to receive alerts. Simply text I-10 express lanes to 888-525-1021. And Madison, right here, if you don't mind actually launching our next poll question, we'd like to know how you are currently receiving our project information. This is multiple choice, so please select all that apply. And now while you're answering that question, we're also active on social media, and we encourage you to follow Go SBCTA on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. And you may even get to see some bonus footage of behind the scenes construction activities like what we've seen here today. We, a few months ago, made a video called SBCTA Today, Safety Within a Construction Zone, where we did partner with Officer Rawls and have some video footage there as well. So Madison, if you don't mind being able to share those poll results. All right, it looks like the majority of people are receiving our information from our weekly construction alerts and our project websites. I see a handful, just small little handful of people who aren't receiving the project information, but you did find your way to our webinar, so that's good news. But we hopefully after this meeting can get your contact information. We'd love for you to be able to receive additional information in the future. Moving on to our next slide. So here's a snapshot of some of the collateral that we do share. For those of you who said you're receiving information in a variety of ways, this probably should look familiar to you. But for those couple that said they did not receive information, this is what our content looks like. The far left is a community notice where we distribute this flyer door to door to residents in the vicinity of where a specific operation is taking place. This one in particular was in preparation of a bridge demolition. The center is an example of what our weekly construction alert looks like. We send these out on Friday afternoons with the upcoming week's construction activities so that you're prepared for the week ahead. These are jam-packed with valuable information about key activities, bridge work, freeway lanes, on and off ramps, and the local streets. So again, I mentioned at the start of the year, we're going to have a handful more of 55-hour weekend lane closures and 10-day ramp closures. So again, great information to be found here so that you can plan ahead. And on the very right is a snapshot of our city sheets, which can be found within our construction alert by simply clicking on these green buttons. So they're specific to those who live in Montclair, Ontario, or Upland, or even work in Montclair, Ontario, or Upland. But the information that's in our city sheet is tailored specifically to the construction activities related to that city. So if you're still finding yourself just navigating your local city because of the pandemic and you're continuing to work from home, this is really helpful to be able to stay in the know within your city limits. All right, now, as we've discussed throughout this presentation, there are a number of closures and activities that take place during these types of closures. And so all of this information can be found on our interactive Google Maps. So we encourage you to plan ahead, allow for extra time to reach your destination, or seek alternate routes to avoid the construction area during this time. The information can be found on our website, gosbcta.com/I-10 corridor. And these are just a few screenshots. You can access it again from the website, download or bookmark it on your computer or mobile phone, and it will give you the most real-time, up-to-date information on closures and detours. And when you click on one of these individual icons, additional details will appear, identifying the specific closure, the detour routes, the times of the closure. And so it's, again, just really valuable information and really another tool to help you navigate the project. So last but not least, we've been hosting these webinars since the start of the year, and we're so glad that we had a virtual platform to still be able to meet with you and engage with you and share project information. But we are looking forward to next year and being back at some in-person events, but also with a hybrid of these types of virtual meetings. So we're going to launch our last final question. We'd like to know what you would like to learn more about in the future related to the I-10 Express Lanes project. So feel free to select one of the options here. If you have another topic that you'd like to suggest, please feel free to leave that in our comments or as a Q&A to our panelists. But again, we just are happy to be able to share the information. We want you to stay in the know. We'd love to have you share that information with your family, your friends, your neighbors, teachers at your kids' school. The more people know about this project, the more they are informed and prepared with the new changes, not only in our traffic patterns, but really with even new express lanes coming to the county. So it just helps us tailor our information specific to your need. So with that, we are done with our presentation. Oh, thanks. Oh, sorry, Madison. Thank you for sharing the results. Looks like everybody wants to know about closures and bridge reconstructions, how to use express lanes. Like, we will definitely dive into that in much more detail as the lanes get closer to opening in 2023. And in-person events, looks like some people are excited about that as well. Thank you for answering that question. All right, so just a final reminder, if you have any questions, please click on the Q&A to ask a question. And if you're joining us from a landline, send an email to info@gosbcta.com. And I will just put it on our last slide, which includes our contact information. But Madison, if you can let me know if there's been any topics or themes that you might have been seeing in the Q&A, we'd love to hear about them.
Hi, Sarah. Thank you so much. We do have a few questions coming in, so bear with us as we just kind of filter those and get the information that we need. But I wanted to start off, this one would actually probably be a good one for Officer Rawls to come back in. We did have a question about drivers noticing people still, not obeying this 55-mile-an-hour speed limit in the construction zone. And they want to know, is there going to be more of a CHP presence out there during the holidays, or what is being done to enforce the speed limit in the construction area?
Very good question. And in a perfect world, if we could be everywhere and stop everyone that was speeding, it would be amazing. However, we try to be in as many places as we can. However, it is a big area, so we try our best to enforce it as much as we can and be in as many places as possible. The Ranch Cucamonga area actually just received a very sizable grant from the Department of Transportation and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration to kind of focus on crash reduction. So it's to get more officers out there to enforce more speeding, distracted driving, DUI, things like that. And the I-10 corridor through our area is one of our main focuses because of all the construction that's going on. So you should be seeing more officers out there with a one kind of mindset of just enforcing these laws out there, on top of our regular beat units. So keep an eye out for them.
Thank you, Officer Rawls. That was very helpful. We are just waiting for some information to come in. We're researching your questions live as you're asking them. Let's see. Why don't I pass this off to Tim Watkins right now to say a couple of words about construction, rain, and weather while we get these and get some more information for you guys. Tim?
Great, thank you, and thank you. This is great. The focus on safety is always present for us, but to be able to share this with the group, I think is fantastic. I appreciate Officer Rawls' insights to some of that stuff. In fact, one of the things Officer Rawls said that caught my attention was, the don't panic scenario and drive slowly. If let's say you have a problem with your car, it's okay to go slowly, but keep moving to a safe place as you can. And I think, we have to get past sometimes the sense of urgency because of the inconvenience that's being caused to others, and focus and overwhelm that perspective towards the safety aspect. The minor inconvenience will go away, but putting yourself into peril will not. And so I strongly encourage that type of reaction as Officer Rawls talked to. I think in that line, when you guys talked about the crossover lanes and that there is a dedicated lane, basically a no exit period of time, for some folks that maybe they're distracted for some reason, and then they realize they're about to enter into that system, they make some very last minute choices that can cause a lot of problems. They try to get over to the right at the last minute. I would encourage you, if you're in that circumstance, just enter into the system, drive it for its duration, and then double back the other way. The extra time means that you're safe, alive, getting home to your family. I think that's an important consideration, and it's not worth it to try to squeeze over in that last second to save that few extra minutes that you think you might be saving in the long run. So I encourage you to continue to focus on those kinds of safety things. I guess safety also played into what Sarah talked about earlier, the downpour that we had yesterday as well, and some of the spontaneous flooding that occurs in different areas, not just in construction zone, it happens all over the place. But in the construction zone that we're involved in, we have resources for you to check in on that kind of stuff. So as Sarah talked about, we have our information channels available to you. One of those things is our real-time interactive Google Maps that shows you conditions within our construction zones. I know that Tina from our team is constantly trying to get real-time updates to those kind of circumstances. And yesterday, we were alerting people to where those flooded areas are. It's important to know, one, traffic slows dramatically in those areas, but also then sometimes people try to drive through areas that are seemingly safe enough to pass, but you don't know what's going on underneath. One location had a minor sinkhole issue and what would look like a passable location. So we would encourage people, don't drive into those flooded areas. And if you want to know before you go, check out the information on our project page on the real-time Google Maps to find out where those risky locations may be. I think one of the questions that Madison was researching was schedules, construction schedules, and how they don't always line up with what was advertised when we started a particular effort on the project. Sultana Bridge was one of the examples. I think Euclid, the first half of Euclid is another example of that. You know, where construction is as a dynamic, moving target, if you will. It is indeed a very calculated, engineered effort, but the field results in some unanticipated challenges, whether it's the type of soil that we come across or the availability of materials and equipment. As you know, the pandemic has caused some supply chain issues, and that we're affected by that as well. And so there's some schedule slips here and there as it relates to the construction activity. Sultana, fortunately, that at the same time, while we did have some delays there, we could afford some of those delays because of that was a primary access to a school that was not active in educating kids at that location. So that time, while it was frustrating for some of the local residents, it minimized some of that overall impact, and we were still able to ultimately get that completed. Euclid Avenue is another example. We were expecting to be complete this month. I think we're pushed out to about February now to where that goes because of some of the circumstances throughout the construction period, including materials, now weather, and some other challenges that we're facing. So we put out targets for our dates of construction. We try to meet those whenever possible. It's a very detailed and challenging process for our staging of construction. And so I assure you, we don't want to go past those dates either, but there are times when it just must happen. We will try to update our website as the information becomes more solid for you to know and keeping you in the loop on all of that. But all in all, again, this safety message, Sarah, is fantastic. Officer Rolls, I really do thank you for your insights to all of that, and hope people will appreciate that slowing down is the best thing that you can do in these construction zones. Stay dialed in and focused as you travel through, knowing that a little bit slower now means a longer time of safety for you going forward. So thank you. Thanks, Sarah. I appreciate the time.
Thanks, Tim. It looks like we had a couple of questions that our team is going to work behind the scenes on getting more information for. So please hold tight and provide your email address, and we'll make sure to get that info from our contractor so we can address your questions. But for now, that looks like it's it on the Q&A end. So Sarah, I'll pass it back to you to wrap it up.
Okay, I just will mention, I know obviously this webinar was for the I-10 express lanes, but San Bernardino County San Bernardino County Transportation Authority has a handful of other construction projects on the 210, on the 60. We have a couple of rail projects, local projects in the cities. So the safety message is not just for the I-10. It's really something that we should be vigilant and remind ourselves of every single day on every road that we drive. So just remember that as you depart today. But thanks for joining us. Happy holidays, and we will see you next year.